In 1977, Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was officially declared dead. But for millions of people around the world, that announcement was just the beginning of a mystery that continues to this day. Even now, decades later, fans still claim they've seen him. At airports, in small-town diners, at gas stations, even showing up in official records. These aren't just jokes or tall tales. For many, it's a genuine belief. So, why does the legend of Elvis's survival refuse to die? What is it about his story that makes us want to believe he never really left the building? When the news broke on August 16, 1977, it felt like the world stopped. Fans, devastated, flocked to his Graceland home in Memphis, Tennessee, creating a sea of mourners. News stations dropped everything, running non-stop coverage of the shocking event. He was only 42 years old, a global icon, gone in an instant. But almost immediately, amidst the grief, questions and inconsistencies began to surface, planting the first seeds of doubt. The funeral was a strictly private affair, shielded from the public and the press. The casket remained sealed throughout the service, preventing anyone from getting a final look at the king. Then his body was moved. Initially buried next to his mother in Forest Hill Cemetery, both were later relocated to the meditation garden at Graceland, after an alleged attempt to tamper with the grave. For his family, these measures were about security and privacy, a way to protect his final resting place. But for some skeptical fans, the secrecy didn't feel like protection. It felt like a cover-up. It felt like a disappearance. This sense of unease was all it took. In the months and years that followed, the sightings began. Reports came flooding in from all corners of the globe. A man matching his description was seen boarding a flight to Buenos Aires. Someone claimed he was spotted casually pumping gas in a small Midwestern town. A photograph surfaced showing an older man who looked remarkably like Elvis, supposedly working as a groundskeeper at Graceland. There was the famous Kalamazoo, Michigan sighting in the late 1980s, where a woman swore she saw him in a Burger King. The stories became folklore, each one adding another layer to the myth. Of course, most of these claims were easily debunked. Some were cases of mistaken identity. Elvis impersonators were everywhere after all. Others were outright hoaxes, created for a quick buck or a moment of fame. One notorious story involved a tape recording of a man who sounded like Elvis discussing his new quiet life. It was later exposed as a fabrication. But here's the fascinating part. The factual truth of each individual sighting mattered less than the powerful, collective desire behind them. People weren't just seeing a man, they were seeing what they wanted to see. They wanted to believe. To understand why, you have to understand what Elvis represented. He wasn't just a famous singer. He was a cultural earthquake. When he first appeared on television in the 1950s, with his swiveling hips and electrifying voice, he changed everything. He took rhythm and blues, country and gospel, and fused them into a sound that was raw, rebellious, and utterly new. He was the American dream personified, a poor boy from Tupelo, Mississippi, who became the biggest star in the world. He was handsome, charismatic, and his music became the soundtrack to an entire generation's life. For his fans, the connection was deeply personal. His voice wasn't just on the radio. It was in their homes and in their cars. They grew up with him. His songs were there for their first high school dances, for those late-night drives with the windows down, for their first loves and their first heartbreaks. He was a constant presence, a symbol of youth, rebellion, and a changing America. And when someone that's significant, that woven into the fabric of your life, vanishes so suddenly and tragically, the mind struggles to accept it. It searches for an alternative ending, a more palatable story. One where he didn't succumb to the pressures of fame, but instead, masterfully escaped them. This is where the conspiracy theory finds its true power. It reframes a tragic end as an act of liberation. In this version of the story, Elvis wasn't a victim. He was the mastermind. Tired of the relentless spotlight, the lack of privacy, and the demands of being the king, he staged his own death. He paid off doctors, funeral directors, and officials to orchestrate the ultimate vanishing act, allowing him to finally live a normal life, free from the gilded cage of his own celebrity. It's a story of an icon taking back control, a narrative that feels more empowering than the sad reality of his final years. Think about the psychology at play. We often see this with the deaths of beloved figures, from James Dean to Princess Diana. When a life is cut short, we are left with a sense of incompletion, of what if. The conspiracy provides an answer. It fills the void. In Elvis's case, it suggests that the man who gave the world so much finally decided to take something for himself, his freedom. It's a romantic, almost cinematic idea, and it's far more comforting than the truth of a slow decline. But the Elvis mystery is about more than just one man. It's about holding on to a piece of the past. Elvis Presley was the king of an era, the post-war boom, the birth of youth culture, a time of seemingly endless possibility. His death, for many, symbolized the end of that time. The world was changing, music was changing, and the innocence he represented seemed to be fading away. So, if Elvis never truly left, then perhaps that era never truly ended either. Rock and roll didn't lose its king. It just allowed him to walk away on his own terms, leaving the throne empty. The conspiracy isn't really about a man hiding out in a secret location. It's about legacy. It's a testament to the sheer scale of his impact. People don't create elaborate survival myths for just anyone. They do it for figures who feel larger than life, whose cultural footprint is so immense that their absence leaves a tangible void. The belief that Elvis is still out there is a way of saying his influence, his energy, and his music are still very much alive. And in a way, they are. His records still sell by the millions. His image is everywhere. New generations are constantly discovering his music. Graceland is one of the most visited homes in America, a shrine where fans can still feel close to him. Director Baz Luhrmann's recent blockbuster film introduced his story to a whole new audience, proving his appeal is timeless. So, officially, Elvis Presley died on a summer day in 1977. His story ended. But culturally, he's still a living, breathing part of our world. He's still walking through airports in people's imaginations. He's still spotted in diners in our collective memory. He is still alive, not in secret, but in sound. The myth endures not because of evidence, but because of love. As long as his music plays, the king never truly dies. If you enjoy stories like this, diving into the moments, myths, and meaning behind the world's greatest music legends, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. We've got so many more stories waiting for you. Thanks for watching.